One of the many qualities that makes pro wrestling a unique industry in the entertainment sphere is the blurred line between what happens behind the camera and what happens in front. For decades, owners of wrestling companies have positioned themselves as on screen protagonists or antagonists. When Vince McMahon made himself the hottest heel in WWE history in the late 1990s, not only had he booked a feud that saved his company, but he had also created a star that he knew would never jump ship to a rival organization. The other side of the coin shows itself when bookers' self interest is detrimental to the heart of the promotion for which they compete. These men, seeking to line their own pockets or stroke their egos rather than bring success to their organization as a whole, have ended up damaging their legacies and even crippling the wrestling business itself. Number 10. Giant Baba. A pupil of Japanese wrestling hero Riki Dozan, Shohei Giant Baba soon became a legend in his own right. After Riki Dozan's murder and the subsequent decline of the Japanese wrestling organization, Baba formed his own outfit, All Japan Pro Wrestling. AGPW joined New Japan Pro Wrestling, both formed in the year 1972, as one of the two major promotions in the country. Baba, a proven star who challenged for both the NWA and the WWE World titles in the US, was the clear choice to hold All Japan's top title, the Pacific Wrestling Federation World Heavyweight Championship. Not only was Baba the inaugural champion, but he would hold the belt for another 3 times, for a total of more than 10 cumulative years in the 70s and 80s. Baba's self-confidence was not misplaced, as the NWA made him the world champion 3 times during the same period. Number 9. Orville Brown. When a group of regional promoters came together to recognize a single world champion in 1948, their choice was Midwest Wrestling Association champion Orville Brown. Brown had captured several titles and beaten many respected competitors, making him a prime choice for the first National Wrestling Alliance World Heavyweight Champion. Of course, the fact that he was one of the group's promoters didn't hurt. Brown continued to unify the NWA title with others around the country, including the original AWA Championship. By the time Brown was forced to forfeit the belt, he had sustained career-ending injuries in a car accident. It was considered one of the world's major wrestling championships. Number 8. Mitsuharu Misawa. When Giant Baba died in early 1999, the position of All Japan Pro Wrestling president fell to the company's top star, Mitsuharu Misawa. As Misawa was a 4-time Triple Crown heavyweight champion and one of the most talented wrestlers to ever set foot in a ring, his feud with Vader and subsequent 5th title win was in question. Friction with the new All Japan owner and Baba's widow, Motoko Baba, led Misawa and the bulk of All Japan's roster to leave the company the following year and form a new league, Pro Wrestling Noah. Though several huge names like Kenta Kobashi, Akira Tao, and Jun Akiyama made the jump in Misawa, the legendary champion was still Noah's best known star. He won the company's newly created Global Honor Crown Heavyweight Championship and establishing the prestige of the belt before he dropped it to Akiyama. He would hold 2 more times, recapturing it when business began to slump. Number 7. Vince McMahon. It's common knowledge that Vince McMahon saved his own company by casting himself a WWE's top villain in the wake of the Montreal Screwjob, then feuding with the Everyman champion Steve Austin. Unfortunately, the McMahon character was never quite as resonant when facing off with anybody besides Austin. And so when the WWE chairman turned babyface in the late 1999, decision makers started trying to come up with a new role for him. The result was a feud between McMahon and the new WWE champion Triple H, and getting one over on the game meant that McMahon defeated him for the title on an episode of SmackDown, with, in a baffling development, a bit of help from Austin. Vince, as WWE champion, was a brief curiosity. He relinquished the belt the following week and it was put up for grabs in a 6-pack challenge match, which Triple H won. All in all, McMahon's reign did little except devalue a still relevant championship. Number 6. Jeff Jarrett. When WWE purchased WCW in 2001, many wrestlers were concerned about their future business prospects, but none more so than Jeff Jarrett, who had left WWE under shadowy circumstances 2 years earlier. Though opinions varied as to who was in the right regarding the Jarrett-Vince McMahon conflict, it didn't matter when Vince was running the sole business in town. Jarrett's opinions were limited, so he and his father, promoter Jerry, started a new company, Total Nonstop Action. Initially, it seemed like Jarrett was willing to take a back seat. Ken Shamrock and Ron Artruth Skillings were the first group's two champions. But before long though, Jarrett was on top as champ, and that was the promotion status quo for the next 4 years. To many would-be fans who didn't view Jarrett as the true superstar, his prominent position was a turn-on. Number 5. Vince Russo. Vince Russo's two separate tenures as head booker of WCW are amongst the most maligned creative runs in wrestling history. And, among other transgressions, he broke a rule that he had once set for himself about never appearing on camera. In fact, he shattered it, becoming an obnoxious New York version of Vince McMahon's heel boss character. Russo's on-screen presence turned off as many people as his booking, especially in a ridiculous feud with Ric Flair. Russo didn't stop there though. On the 25th September 2000 episode of Monday Night Raw, Russo faced WCW World Heavyweight Champion Booker T in a steel cage match. Booker T seemed to have the match won when he escaped the cage, but Goldberg, who Russo had antagonized for weeks, speared the challenger through the cage wall, and the WCW Booker hit the ground first, becoming the new WCW champion. Like McMahon, Russo relinquished the title days later, but unlike McMahon, Russo's company wasn't strong enough to weather this asinine decision. Number 4. Ric Flair. Ric Flair is considered one of the best wrestlers of all time, but his tenure as booker of WCW is more polarizing. Flair is rumored to have a hand in his booking in legendary programs with Ricky Steamboat and Terry Funk in 1989. And he was given creative control of WCW outright in 1994. That tenure didn't last long, but Flair, who was already world champion, continued to hold the title until the summer, feuding with Steamboat once more. Flair's creative contributions to the undercard, which continued after he had lost control of the main event, were less popular. Mick Foley, who as Cactus Jack experienced Flair's tenure firsthand, criticized him in his autobiography, famously stating Flair is as every bit as sad on the booking side of things as he was great on the wrestling side of things. Number 3. Verne Gagne. After a dispute with the NWA in 1960, the Minnesota-based wrestling star Verne Gagne and promoter Wally Carbo founded the American Wrestling Association. Gagne, a serious and accomplished mat technician, was declared the first champion of the new group and would spend the next 20 years as the promotion's top draw. In 1980, the 54-year-old Gagne retired as the AWA World Heavyweight Champion, marking the end of his 10th reign with the title. Though Gagne was a great talent and a legitimate superstar to his core audience, it can be argued that he overstayed his welcome. From 1960 to 1980, Gagne spent 4,677 days as world champion, a record that stretches across all of wrestling. Number 2. Triple H. To be fair, Triple H has never been in the position of head booker for a company in which he's competed. He currently holds the slot in NXT. He has, as a result of his friendships and romantic relationships, found himself with a great deal of backstage influence. Just how much of Triple H's success is due to his familiar relationships with Stephanie and Vince McMahon will always be debated. Even to the uninitiated eye, though the game has clearly spent a decade and a half as a focal point of WWE TV, often at the expense of more popular superstars. Triple H has settled into a position as a flip-flopping heel authority figure, but those who closed the book on his time as world champion were sorely mistaken. In 2016, Triple H won the Royal Rumble, capturing his 14th world title in the process. Number 1. Kevin Nash. Sometimes, when booker wrestlers put the title on themselves, it's a good decision. Sometimes it's questionable. Other times, it's Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash became booker of WCW in early 1999, but even before then, the wheels were in motion for him to take the reins and he was wielding creative influence. In November of 1988, he won the 60-man 3-ring battle royale known as World War III, and the following month he pinned Goldberg to win the WCW Heavyweight Championship. Goldberg, who was still undefeated until the Nash match, had been WCW's biggest draw through 1998. After losing, he was still WCW's biggest draw, but that didn't carry the same weight as it once did. He was no longer able to keep the company in contention with WWE. Nash killed WCW's golden goose to line his and his friends' pockets, and it was one of the largest nails in what would become WCW's coffin.